Hello and welcome to CBC. This year, Azerbaijan and the World Bank celebrate 25th anniversary of the partnership. About the activities of the bank in Azerbaijan, we will talk with Navid Hassan Nagvi, the country manager for the World Bank Azerbaijan office. For the entire period of working bank in Azerbaijan, how many, it's nearly 25 years, how many loans have been disbursed and for what projects?
I think we have 50 plus projects that we have financed in Azerbaijan, approximately $3.5 billion since they became a member of the World Bank Group. We have seen Azerbaijan as a newly independent country. We've seen it go through its growing phase. We've helped them in a range of sectors. We have partnered with them in rehabilitating cultural monuments in Sheki, also here, the Shirvan Shah Palace, the other monuments. In addition, we've supported the resettlement of refugees as a result of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. We continue to do that. We have supported investment in rural sector. Of course, our investments in the transport sector have been fairly large, continue to be very large in both railways and highways. And most recently, as I'm sure you're aware, we financed a portion of TANAP, the Southern Gas Corridor, and we will continue to be supportive of Azerbaijan's efforts to come out of the current economic downturn in performance that was triggered as a result of the oil price drop 2 years ago.
Mr. Nagvi, as you touch upon energy sector, it's well known that last year $400 million were allocated for TANAP project. Do you have any other plans to pour money into this sector?
Well, the energy sector is the most recent project that we've done. It is one of the sectors that we focus on. And I think the partnership between the bank and Azerbaijan go beyond the money that we bring to the table. I think more important than the money that we brought to the table was how it helped crowd in financing both from other IFIs, including AIIB, where I think we helped facilitate AIIB in providing $600 million also to TANAP, in addition to the $400 million that the World Bank has provided. We're also talking about other instruments such as guarantees that can be given to private sector investors or financiers. So we are ready, I think, almost to finalize $1.2 billion in guarantees, also in support of the Southern Gas Corridor and TANAP. But I want to emphasize again that this is part of an overall effort in our partnership to support infrastructure development. And I think it's important to keep in mind that infrastructure development is only one element of the development strategy. The other element, which I think is increasingly now more important, is human development. How to improve the quality of services provided to the people of Azerbaijan, and how to make sure that economic recovery is fueled not just by oil and by hydrocarbons, but also by the other great resource that Azerbaijan has, its people.
Mr. Nagvi, before we go into talk about some projects in infrastructure area and as well as human resources, let me clarify a little thing over the guarantee, as you mentioned, 1.2 billion for TANAP project. So, as far as I understand, this is going to be a guarantee from the World Bank if a commercial bank and the South Gas Corridor company will agree to have a loan from them. So, what are benefits South Gas Corridor will receive with these guarantees?
Well, I think the World Bank guarantees gives confidence to private sector investors to get involved in the project. And I think it's a signaling device. In addition to, of course, being a guarantee, it's a signaling device that this is a good project in which the bank has invested. I know ADB has offered similar sort of investments. AIB has invested. So it's another element of ensuring that the sector gets the financing that it needs.
So far, I know that these guarantees helps a borrower. In our case, we're talking about South Gas Corridor, to receive a lower interest from another bank.
Correct.
Can you say what the rate could be, let's say, if the South Gas Corridor company will decide to borrow money from German bank or from...
You know, the rates are different depending on market conditions. Just to say that the guarantees do lower the risk for private sector investors to invest in the project.
But in percentage, how many percent can gas corridor company expect to be reduced because of these guarantees?
Well, I think it will be significant, and in fact the guarantees are offered, they don't have to be taken. Mm-hmm. So the Southern Gas Corridor will have the ability to offer guarantees up to a certain amount from the bank. They don't have to fully use it if they think they can get a rate in the market without using the guarantees.
The World Bank is very interested to improve Azerbaijan's economic landmark. So, and what directions you see to do that? So you said that you can provide us technical assistance to certain agencies. Do you have any plans, specific plans to provide special assistance to bank system?
So that's a very important question, and a very good one in the current situation. So I think one of the impacts of the oil price drop has been that the banking sector and banks in the sector as a whole have been going through a very tough time for the past 2 or 3 years. As a result, the government created the Financial Stability Council as well as FIMSA, which is the financial regulator, to help deal with some of these challenges. And the bank has been providing technical assistance to FIMSA and other stakeholders to help them think through how to go about doing this. This is an urgent issue. It requires it requires resolution before other elements of the development policy can function properly, because the situation right now is that the banks are not lending, interest rates are high, and no one is actually borrowing. Yep. So without financing being available, the economy it will not grow. It's the financing from the sector is the lifeblood of any entrepreneurial activity. Traditionally, so the creation of FIMSA was an attempt by government to create an independent regulator. I think ensuring FIMSA's independence going forward and making sure that the financial sector and its problems are dealt with quickly are key. Our technical assistance for the fiscal year that started on July 1st is, so there's a program for economic recovery that we're working on with the Financial Stability Council. Mm-hmm. Its secretariat is in the central bank. We've been encouraged by the response that we have received from key decision makers. And what we will try and do is bring in international experts to advise government on topics that they would want advice on economic recovery, whether it may be to have better managed financing in government, better medium-term budgetary planning, whether it is in terms of how to modernize the agriculture sector. So there's this plan for the next 3 years that the bank will finance out of its own resources, where the partners are key decision makers in government. We will have such an exercise every 4 to 6 months, and we will provide our advice to government at their request. Secondly, we will be starting what the bank calls a jobs diagnostic. Essentially, we have a tool which analyzes which sectors have the possibility of generating good jobs, and then assessing what are the elements of policy that need to be fixed, tweaked, worked on to make that possible. Is it on the supply side? Are there elements of this intervention that need to be made in the universities? Is there something that needs to be done to the business environment? So this tool, we've deployed this tool in other countries. I personally was involved in working on something similar in Kazakhstan, which has some of the same challenges that Azerbaijan faces. So that tool is also being deployed this year, and we will hope to have a result by the end of the year.
What is your estimation on the economic growth on this current year and the next year?
So this year we think the economy will have contracted between 1 and 1.5% by the
yeah.
Next year, all things being equal, it will probably grow between 0.5% and 1%, probably closer to 1% in real terms.
What current projects are at the main focus of the bank in Azerbaijan?
2 years ago, that this oil financed growth boom came to a stop because oil prices dropped. So you can no longer now rely on oil to be the engine of growth.
Yep.
That is true not just here, but in other natural resource dependent economies such as Kazakhstan, Russia, Saudi Arabia, others. So now you are faced with a situation in this country where you have to diversify away from oil. If you want to become a vibrant economy in the 21st century. So you think about an economic recovery that is more balanced than just hoping for oil prices to recover or even discovering new oil wells. In that conversation, you've got to think about what is the other resource that you can use. And in fact, from my perspective, there's only one other resource. It's the people of Azerbaijan. You have to rely on them to create businesses and create jobs for people.
From the bank side, what technical assistance or other assistance you see which can boost this growth? Human resources growth.
So I think the government has invested enormously in infrastructure, in roads, in railways, in building new hospitals. I think the challenge is how do you use these resources efficiently? You have to build institutions, and in order to have strong institutions, you have to have skilled people to man these institutions. So while you have a large number of universities and a large number of hospitals, there's a question mark about the quality of services that are being provided. Is the university graduate skilled and equipped with the right skills to service the needs of business? Is the hospital being used optimally? So these are question marks, and I think from our perspective there is a great deal that still needs to be done in terms of improving quality of education, in terms of linking universities to businesses. We have started work on business incubators in higher education. So we have experience with how technology transfer takes place, how research can be commercialized, how businesses and universities can be brought together to start entrepreneurial activities. So this is again something that we are starting this year, and we have received great support from government, including the Minister of Education, who himself is very interested in this, and the ministry has already started some work in this area on its own. So this is some of the things that we are working on.
Agriculture sector is the very important sector for Azerbaijani economy. Do you have any specific plans and projects to boost this direction of the economy?
We have an ongoing project called the Azerbaijan Agricultural Commercialization Investment Project. Mm-hmm. So this project, ASIP, has been working in the rural areas to modernize agriculture, create value up the value chain in agriculture. And we are hoping going forward it will be an area of continued focus both from us and from the government. Fortunately, the government and the World Bank have had a long partnership in supporting investment in the rural areas. Mm-hmm. We have a program called Azerbaijan Rural Investment Project. This project has had 2 phases. The second phase is completing sometime next year, and we are now in the process of preparing a third phase. Mm-hmm. It'll be between $50 and $100 million, and it covers the entire country. It provides resources for rural populations to start livelihood, job creating activities, also small infrastructure in water or small rural roads and others. It helps them develop small business models and finances the initial startup of that. So we are very hopeful that these initiatives, once the third phase starts, hopefully next year, that we will be able to continue supporting the rural areas. In addition, finally, we are also working on a regional logistics note. Essentially, how do you use the infrastructure that's already been created or will soon be created in a way that helps Azerbaijan maximize the benefit of these the logistics facilities? I mean, what proportion of rail versus roads? Yep. What are the tariffs on each of these? Which industries can use them? So the work that we, for example, doing in modernizing agriculture, moving it up the value chain from merely growing tomatoes to processing them, also fruits, other things. How do we marry that modernization effort with a modern logistics network? And how do we use it in a way that generates maximum benefits, not just in terms of revenue for government, but also profits for businesses?
As we slightly merge to the topic of infrastructure as well as transportation, let's talk about this. What kind of interest the World Bank has to participate in one of the transportational projects which Azerbaijan conducts? Particularly, do you have a keen interest to develop North-South project?
So we've been a partner of Azerbaijan for 25 years. Supporting infrastructure has been central to our effort. We are a partner now. So my current portfolio is over $2 billion. I think close to half of it is infrastructure, and most of infrastructure is transport. I see ourselves being involved in supporting the infrastructure going forward, not restricted to east, west, or north, south. Mm-hmm. Wherever the government thinks we can be useful, whether in terms of providing just technical assistance or in terms of providing loans, they will continue to find a willing partner in the World Bank.
I'd like to speak about projects which has been carried by the World Bank for quite a bit of time, and this is dispersion of money to the sector of forced migrants who has been
The IDP project, the
yes.
internally displaced
and
population.
it was allocation was quite significant for this years, and last year it was a small allocation for $16-something million. Do you have any plans to pour more investments, pour more loans in this direction?
So we initially provided a $50 million loan, which had $16 million of funding from government, so $66 million. That phase of the project came to a close last year, and we now provided another $66 million for support to internally displaced population as a result of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. And this, we're in the first year of this second phase, and the financing is likely to last for another 3 to 4 years. We are committed to providing this support. I think our intention is to be as helpful as we can be in this very important effort that the government of Azerbaijan itself is pouring a lot of resources into. And I continue to be encouraged by the progress we've seen, and we continue to be involved.
Mr. Nagui, thank you very much for your time you're spending with our channel, and we wish you all the best in all projects you have in Azerbaijan for the next decades.
Thank you very much.
And I will remind you, we spoke about the World Bank activities in Azerbaijan and about long and short-term project with Navid Hassan Nagvi, the country manager for the World Bank Azerbaijan office. Goodbye.